Welcome everyone to the City Council meeting for December 12th. I just feel really happy that you all showed up for my last council meeting. Thank you. Appreciate it. And very quickly, I want to say how much I appreciate my fellow councilors, and a special appreciation to another member of council who is not going to, this is his last meeting, council meeting as well, and that's George Brown. So I'll let you. Okay, the public forums. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak, but it's going to get cold tonight, and the sooner we can all get home, the better. So less than 2 minutes if you can, because we have 51 people signed up. So no more clapping, please. But anyway, just want to say that trying to be very short is good for us all, because we have many other things on our agenda tonight. All right, so let's see. The timer and lights will indicate the time you have to speak. Red light indicates the end of your 2 minutes. And the first one up is Jennifer Frenzer-Knowlton, followed by James Cummings.
My name's Jennifer Frenzer-Knowlton. I'm in Betty Taylor's ward. And I just wanted to take a second to say thank you, Councillor Brown. Thank you, Mayor Piercy, for your service. Tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the Eugene Human Rights Commission in response, and also in response to 2 public meetings of the Human Rights Commission where 100 and also 175 people spoke and addressed a sanctuary committee ordinance. I was originally thinking I was going to speak tonight about a resolution and ask you for your consideration, but instead what I'm here to do on behalf of the Eugene Human Rights Commission is to formally petition the City Council. And this is per our advice per our liaison to the Human Rights Commission, Chris Pryor. So on behalf of the Eugene Human Rights Commission, I formally petition the City Council to move forward with a local ordinance process establishing Eugene as a sanctuary city. We support the creation of a work group to further develop the draft ordinance we approved December 5th unanimously as the Human Rights Commission. And we would like to have this presented to Council the first week of February for consideration. In addition, while the ordinance is being crafted, we would like to request that Council and/or the City Manager craft policy or administrative directives that will in effect give the community members protection from unnecessary and illegal questions about their immigration status, and present the gathering of similar or sharing of that information similar to the laws that currently protect community members when they're communicating with police and law enforcement. Third, we would like to request that the City Council give priority in their calendars.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So James Cummings is next, followed by Carolyn Cummings.
City Council and Mayor Piercy, thanks for hearing me tonight. I've never spoke before the City Council because I never felt like I had a voice. I've been living in Eugene since 1992. I have a small business. I have 10 employees. And I want to talk to you about public safety in the downtown. I'm really tired of my wife, my daughter, my female employees, my elderly mother coming home being accosted, and just really bothered by the people downtown that are not participating in our community in a way that I think is dignified, and maybe it doesn't deserve respect. So maybe this dovetails with Eugene as a sanctuary city, but I think I'd like to know that you're going to have a consideration for everyone's privileges and rights downtown, not just the few that like to hang around, smoke and vape and curse people up. You know, I'm kind of tired of it. I like to see more police. My mother doesn't even go downtown anymore. I convinced her to live here 6 years ago. She can't even participate in part of our community. So thanks for listening.
Caroline is next, followed by Leanne MacArthur.
Hello, members of the council. Caroline Cummings, resident of Eugene. It was only about 8 weeks ago that I was here talking to you about an altercation downtown where I was surrounded by 5 men, a woman, and a pit bull, and I didn't feel safe. I had another incident just on December 2nd, and I sent you an email about that where I had folks saying sexual comments to me, and I stepped in because they were saying sexual comments to other women. And it's really, really frustrating where the streets are crowded, and I understand that it's unconstitutional to ban loitering in the downtown, but why is it legal to block the streets? Why is it legal to blow weed and vape into my face when I'm trying to just get about my day? The last clip of my testimony was videotaped, and it's been viewed over 25,000 times, and since then I've had many women come out to me and thank me for coming to speak because they don't feel safe doing so. I don't know if you know what it feels like to be a woman walking in our downtown, having to walk at a fast, swift pace, feeling like you need to keep your head down for fear of what making eye contact with someone might mean, worrying about leaving work because you know there's going to be a group of guys sitting on the street in that doorway of that empty storefront around the corner and what they might say to me today. Walking to my car, to my garage, hoping someone isn't following me. And if it wasn't for these women who asked me to come and do this, I wasn't going to do it again today because I already did this once and I feel like it's falling on deaf ears. So something has to give. I can tell you what it feels to be a woman walking in the downtown, being accosted sexually, having people grab at you. It feels shitty. It doesn't feel good. So what are you going to do about it? Thank you.
Leanne MacArthur is next, followed by Brittany Quick-Warner.
Hi, I'm Leanne MacArthur, and thanks for hearing my commentary. I'm here today on behalf of speaking towards the Sanctuary City Initiative. My name is Leanne MacArthur. I'm a fourth-generation Mexican-American. My mother grew up in a Spanish-speaking household and was part of the first generation of my family to fluently speak English. All of the second and third generation men in my family are U.S. Army veterans, including my grandfather, who was married with 3 children when he was deployed to France in 1944. I'm here today to speak on behalf of those who fear deportation, those who have not yet mastered English, and for the many Latino immigrants who are with families celebrating the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. She is the patron saint of Mexico and the champion of those who lack power in society. I have no doubt that tonight you're going to hear many heartfelt stories. And for those who prefer to look at economic benefit as a driving reason to support Eugene becoming a sanctuary city, I offer the following data to combat misinformation regarding who our immigrants are and what they do for the U.S. economy. More than half of all immigrants become homeowners, and less than 1 in 5 live in poverty, which means that immigrants are no more likely to use social services than native-born U.S. citizens. In fact, because undocumented migrants have taxes deducted from their wages and typically do not tap into benefits, they represent a gain for our tax base. Immigrants are also less likely to commit crimes or be incarcerated. The U.S.-born children of immigrants are more likely to go to college, less likely to live in poverty, and equally likely to be homeowners as the rest of the U.S. population. 29% of immigrants over 25 have a bachelor's or higher level degree compared to 34% of the U.S.-born population. Economists have noted that immigrants have a positive effect on the U.S. economy, boosting wages, and that immigration is integral to our nation's economic growth. Scandinavian economists have reported a boom in the Swedish economy.
Thank you.
Can I?
Brittany Quick-Warner is next, followed by Bob Cassidy.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you so much for your service. I appreciate the heavy and complicated issues that you have sitting in front of you right now, not only in this room, but the ones that you're dealing with outside of here too. I just want to thank you all and know that we appreciate the burden you carry. Tonight I'm here to inform you of some of the important work that myself and a lot of stakeholders downtown have been working over the last several months regarding the public safety issues. This summer, a group of merchants came forward to the Chamber and to the Downtown Eugene Incorporated and a lot of the partners who've been meeting, and they were beside themselves. And I'm not just talking about folks who kind of moved in recently and weren't really sure what was going on with the situation. They suddenly became aware of it. I'm talking about folks who have spent a lot of time and years downtown trying to help improve the situation, letting us know that it's gotten to be the worst that it's ever been. And we all came to the consensus that we didn't want to just talk about the problems anymore. We really wanted to talk about solutions. We want to be a part of finding solutions. So we convened a group, and we've been meeting with a ton of people over the last 4 months. Myself, I've had over 24 meetings with homeless advocates, with social service providers, with the EPD, with city staff, to learn and really understand this issue. And when staff came forward to you a couple weeks ago to have the public safety work session to talk about some of the solutions, to be honest, the stakeholders were disheartened by the conversation, because it felt like there was, we were missing a baseline conversation from council about what you do and don't think are the issues downtown. And so we're coming forward now, instead of proposing solutions at this time, asking for you to have a work session to talk about the state of downtown, so we can all get on the same page, and then we can be a part of proposing some of the solutions that we think will work. Thanks.
Bob Cassidy is next, followed by Gary Rayer.
Bob Cassidy, Eugene, in Ellen Zelinka's ward. I will be giving testimony of some kind tomorrow night at the atrium. I don't know quite how that's going, so I wanted to talk directly to you tonight. What I've been concerned about with the talk about eWeb is that the presentation from the staff limited the space that you're talking about with a red line, and I couldn't understand why this is. Part of the parking space that eWeb is presently using is not in that. The area where the eWeb Credit Union is, and parking space around that, and the parking space across the street, that's limited. Even the space that's along the river on the south side of the present building is not being considered as a place where you could go. I see no problem with the phase-in project of moving people into the eWeb building, maybe even using this as your council chambers for a while, and building a new building the way you want it to the south of the present building. There's space there. It's in your power to use that space, and it seems like an easy way to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Gary Rayer is next, followed by Kate Gethert.
Thank you. Gary Rayer, Eugene, former city councilor. The past. In 2000, when I was a councilor, we talked about the new city hall. I was an advocate of using the bones of the existing city hall. My belief was based on 25 years of structural engineering experience at the time, that the seismic problems of the soft story lower parking area could be overcome with the damping brace system. That belief wasn't realized. The present. The planned phase 1 city hall on the present site is just too expensive, followed by a $100 million phase 2 to co-locate most city services is not feasible in the long term, in my opinion. The future. The past of least resistance, and perhaps ultimately the best correct solution, is to use the existing eWeb headquarter building should it become available. As it is much newer, it is in much better seismic resistance than the old city hall. In addition, it is large, 90,000 square feet. I feel like if your build out is 120,000 square feet, the atrium inside the existing building could be infilled and provide additional square footage and be constructed to retrofit the frame of the existing building to new seismic standards. So to recap, originally the building was designed to a very high seismic standard for the Lifeline electrical grid management system located on the 4th floor. It provides 3/4 of the needed space and is expandable by infill to meet the total needs. It participates in moving the center of gravity of the city to the river envisioned in numerous documents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kate Gethert is next, followed by Jack Dresser.
My name is Kate Gessert, and I'm speaking in support of Eugene as a sanctuary city. There are many people who would like to be here tonight who can't. I teach English as a second language at Lane Community College downtown, and many of my immigrant students would like to be here. They are thrilled by the idea of a sanctuary city, a place that will make their lives safer in the shadow of the coming administration. They are brave people, but they are afraid of coming to a public meeting, both those with green cards and those without documents, everyone who is not yet a citizen, which is almost all of them. I would like them to be there, but as a teacher, I am also a protector, and I don't know whether it's safe for them to be here, to be at a public meeting. So, as some of us read the letters they have written to the mayor and the city council, I'd like you to imagine us speaking with their voices. As we all speak, imagine us surrounded by their faces. From dozens of countries in every continent but Antarctica, brown and white and black faces, not only ESL students, but all the immigrants who live in Eugene and are not yet protected by U.S. citizenship, all of them listening from a distance to what is said here and hoping that Eugene will soon be a sanctuary city. For the past 20 years, I have worked with immigrant students in my ESL classes. It's a pleasure and an honor to teach them. As a group, they are honorable, loving people who have taken the enormous leap of coming to the U.S. They have come in necessity and sorrow, but now they're here, they are making the best of it, taking gentle care of their families and coming to know and love Eugene, making their homes here. I can't think of any people who are more worth protecting than these people.
Jack Dresser is next, followed by Diane Doubt.
Hi, I'm Jack Dresser. I wanted to speak in favor of the sanctuary city proposal. And I'd like us all to think of this not so much as a humanitarian largesse, but as a matter of duty as American citizens. Because a large percentage of the refugees we created, the people we have elected at the national level have created these refugees. Going clear back to the Reagan administration, the abominations that were committed in Central America, the abominations committed under Hillary's State Department in Honduras. It has reduced that country to chaos with the highest murder rate in the world, hemorrhaging refugees. We've created refugees all over the Middle East. Syria has been a sanctuary for the refugees that we created. In the Iraq War, 2 million externally displaced refugees. They've absorbed 500,000 Palestinian refugees that Israel created with the support and diplomatic protection of our country. We have a duty to these people, an absolute duty. And I hope that Eugene will see fit to confront and to meet that duty and be an example of the rest of the country. Thanks.
Diane Dowd, followed by Indira Bakshi.
I'm also here to support the petition.
Your name?
My name is Diane Dowd, and I'm here to support the petition for making Eugene a sanctuary city. I'm also an ESL teacher at Lane Community College, and I'd like to read some thoughts from several of our immigrant students who are from Russia, Mexico, and Mali. They wrote in response to 3 questions that I gave them. First question, do you think a sanctuary city is a good idea? Answers, yes, because we can feel safe and talk to people who trust us. Because there are people who don't know the laws or don't know who to turn to when they are assaulted. Second question, what is your greatest fear about immigration? My biggest fear is what everyone feels when they speak with immigration, that they will be blamed for what they never done. I'm afraid of what will happen now to Muslim and Latino immigrants. My greatest fear is to be a victim of racism. I think it's difficult to manage people's moods and behaviors. What is the hope you have for being part of the community? I hope that people will understand the need to live together without distinction of race. I hope to find friends with similar minds and thoughts in this community. Thank you very much.
Indira Bakshi is next, followed by Nancy Wood.
Hello, members of the City Council and Mayor Piercy. My name is Indira Bakshi, and I'm also instructor of English as a Second Language at Lane Community College. I've come here tonight to support the petition to adopt an ordinance to designate Eugene as a sanctuary city, and I urge you to make this decision swiftly in favor of the ordinance or petition. I'm here upon my own behalf, but I'm also here to speak for those in our community who do not have the language, privilege, or courage to speak here tonight. I have a letter from a student in one of our evening courses, EL Civics and English Language, and I'm going to read that to you. Monday, November 28th, 2016. Dear members of the Eugene City Council, I am writing in support of Eugene becoming a sanctuary city because I trust in the importance of immigration for the community, both for the cultural enrichment of the people's lives and new generations, and for the improvement of the economy. I think immigrants have the right to be protected and loved by the community without prejudices. Thank you for your attention.
Nancy Wood is next, followed by Jim New.
Hello, Mayor Piercy and members of the City Council. My name is Nancy Wood. I'm also an ESL instructor at Lane Community College, and I want to thank you for considering this petition for an ordinance to designate Eugene as a sanctuary city. In the current nationwide climate of uncertainty and fear for vulnerable groups such as immigrants, Muslims, people who identify as LGBTQ, people of color, and many others, I really urge you to adopt this ordinance swiftly. With this ordinance, Eugene can proudly take a firm stand in support of diversity and decency. Tonight, I'm reading you a letter from Tanya, a recent immigrant to Eugene who is currently studying at Lane Community College. My name is Tanya. I have lived here since 2014, and I love Eugene. I think it's a good idea for Eugene to become a sanctuary city. In my opinion, immigrants are hardworking and eager to work hard. This, in turn, makes the country have economic stability. Each of us comes to the U.S. since it's considered the land of opportunity, and this gives us hope for a brighter future for us and for our children. We can work. And we want to work. We love your country, and we hope that you will take us into your family. Sincerely, Tanya.
Thank you. Jim New is next, followed by Charmaine Rigg.
Evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Jim New. I live in Ward 7, and I represent 350 Eugene Volunteer. I've been a recycler for years, and repurposing is a good, sustainable practice. I agree with council members Mr. Clark, Mr. Poling, and Mr. Evans. The repurposing of the eWeb building is a viable solution to the City Hall renovation project. The eWeb location is a magnificent site along the south bank of the river. It could be a great new location for a covered farmers market area and makes the most financial sense considering cost versus square footage for city staff. I hope council give this option considerable consideration in determining a city hall location. On behalf of 350 Eugene, we would also like to thank the council and mayor in considering adopting the no crude by rail resolution as written. Although adoption would be a symbolic gesture by council, a diluted version would lack effectiveness in sending a message as to the severity of this issue and the consequences it could have on the public health and safety. 350 Eugene also would like to thank Mr. Brown and Mayor Piercy for their dedicated service all these years, and hope you both join 350 Eugene to consider I knew that would get a raise, to continue your involvement in social and environmental justices. We would also like to welcome Council-elect Emily Simple and Mayor-elect Lucy Vinnis on behalf of 350. We look forward to working with you both in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Charmaine Reg is next, followed by Freda Schultz.
Hi, my name is Charmaine Reg, and Mike Clark is my guy, my counselor. And what a great article today, the guest viewpoint. To me, it just sums it up about eWeb. It's a thorough article, it's a succinct article, and this is the way I'd like to see things go. Just from my vantage point, I think it's a great aesthetic there. I love going there for when there was Earth Day events there, and it's user-friendly. It's got a huge parking lot, which makes everyone feel like, yes, they can go in the city hall and do the business they need to do or talk to the people they want to talk to. This points out every detail that I think needs to be known. So I give a big up to choosing eWeb for the City Hall. Thank you.
Thank you. Freda Schultz is next, followed by David Piccioni.
My name is Freda Schultz, and I've lived in Eugene off and on for the past 30 years. And I'd like you to urge you to pass the ordinance to make Eugene a sanctuary city. I think we need to do this for the following reasons. First, an ordinance, as I understand, is stronger than a resolution, and I believe that we need to make as strong a stand as we can as a community in support of the rights of every person who lives here. Two, as I understand, Oregon is a sanctuary state. However, this could be overturned in the future, so it's important that we have a strong ordinance in Eugene to support and keep safe all residents, regardless of what happens at the state level. Three, the draft of the ordinance that is being recommended by the Eugene Human Rights Commission that I heard last Monday has stronger language, protects more targeted groups of people, and requires more government employees to refuse to target or assist in targeting people based on immigration status, religion, race, or other traits than the state law. 4, it is important as a city that we send a message to the federal government and all groups of people within our city that we stand together and will not cooperate with anyone being targeted in our city. I want to leave you with a quote from Martin Niemöller, a prominent pastor in Germany in the 1930s. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Thank you.
Thank you. David Piccioni is next, followed by Lon Otterby.
Howdy, my name's Dave Piccioni, and I am particular about my space around me, so I'm not entirely crazy about the idea of a lot of people from all over the world coming to Eugene, but I understand that it's the humane thing to do. But the most important thing that we should be doing if we're concerned about people from other countries is not creating refugees. There are the main 3 causes of refugees are the war on drugs, militarization, interventions in other countries, and the free trade agreements. So if people want to help the people from other countries, that's the first thing that you should look at. As far as the building, I think it's completely irresponsible. The numbers that I was hearing, about $100 million and upward for the building of these city halls, of this city hall. You're indebting the city of Eugene for the next 20 years or longer. You're not even going to be here. You're not even going to see what's going to happen. You're not going to be responsible for it. It's like having a credit card. So this fellow here's largely responsible for this scandal, and it's going to be really bad when in the next 20 years, there won't be, in the immediate future, there won't be any money for anything else because we're building one fucking building.
Lon Otterby is next, followed by Alex Tomaselli.
Mayor Piercy, Councilor Evans, City Council. My name is Lon Otterby. I'm from Marcola, but tonight I'm representing the Many Rivers group of the Sierra Club, which is Lane County, Coos, and Douglas counties. We have two resolutions, and we've got hard copies with the staff for you that we've passed unanimously. And I'm speaking for our 744 members of the Sierra Club that live in Eugene. We think often on the train issue about the university and other things, but more often than not for climate justice, the people that really get affected by these trains are the people with the working class and the people that don't have the resources to seek protection. And so we seek protection for them. We also approved unanimously and support the sanctuary city and the full resolution as it's put together now, and urge you to vote for that. The important part of that resolution, that ordinance, is not only that it protects people, but it gives support to those of us who daily step up and protect people and give them shelter, give them sustenance, and encourage us to continue doing the same. And we would really encourage you to keep that ordinance strong for not only the people that need protection, but for those of us that step up every day. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex Tomaselli is next, followed by Marissa Garcia.
Hello, my name is Alexandra Tomaselli, and I am in Mr. Zelenka's ward. The reason I am here is that I would really love to petition you guys to really go through with making Eugene a sanctuary city. As a naturalized Latina woman living in the United States, Mr. Trump's cabinet frightens me. Every time I read the news, it's almost like I'm just sort of waking up from this nightmare. So I would really love to see Eugene reject any effort to criminalize or attack Black Lives Matter or any group organizing for social justice. I would love to see Eugene not cooperate or assist with the registration or surveillance programs of Muslims, or any attempt to make the people around us our enemies. I would also love to see our city not assist or cooperate with any raids or detentions or deportations of any immigrant. And I would love to see Eugene be a safe zone for everyone, be they an immigrant, be they practicing a different faith, be they LGBTQ, women, anybody. Please help make Eugene a safe place for all. Thank you.
Marissa Garcia is next, followed by Shelley, it looks like Fona.
Good evening. My name is Marisa Garcia. I'm the Executive Director of Huerto de la Familia, the family garden here in Eugene and Springfield. And I'm here because Huerto de la Familia is part of the Immigrant Integration Network of Lane County. It's a group of organizations and agencies, including school districts and libraries and nonprofits, working to make Lane County a more welcoming place for immigrant families here. And we want to encourage the passing of this petition because it's really important to make this place safer for our families, and not only to show that we tolerate them being here, but that we're welcoming our families and all that they contribute to our community. It's really important that we take a proactive step. Even if we take this step, our town isn't completely safe. It's not a safe bubble. Federal funds can still be used. Federal ICE raids can still happen. This is just saying that we won't participate. We're not going to use our precious tax dollars to carry out these raids. We're not going to use our precious agency time to help them with this project. So it's saying we're taking a stand. If they're going to do the raids, it's not going to be on our money, it's not going to be on our time, our staff, our police, and we're not going to stand by and participate and contribute to it. So I do want to be clear to everybody who's here tonight that if this passes, there's still a battle to be fought. but this is the first step, and the step is very important, and I hope that you all support us through this process. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelley Thona is next, followed by Eric Suchman.
Thank you. It's Shelley Fort, and I live in Ward 2, Betty Taylor's ward in Eugene. I think it's critical that Eugene become a sanctuary city. I teach English as a second language to adults at Downtown Languages, where we serve students from all over the world. I also teach at PLAS, a special family literacy program for Latino families. Nearly all of our students are immigrants, and some of them are undocumented. My students did not come to the United States to commit crimes. They came here for jobs, for more education, and for a better life for their families. In the past several weeks, a number of our students and their children have been victims of mean-spirited treatment by coworkers or classmates. Examples include, "When are you going back to your country?" or "Trump said he's sending you all back to Mexico." One middle schooler actually had a group of classmates lock arms and say they are building a wall. Many of our immigrants, as well as their children, are suffering in silence at work or school because they fear retaliation if they report abusive behavior. Some of my students' children who were born in the United States are afraid that their undocumented parents will be sent to Mexico. Eugene has a reputation for being a kind, open-minded, and loving city. The types of behavior of our immigrant families are experiencing are utterly inexcusable and unacceptable. It is our responsibility as human beings and as members of this community to make sure that we can do everything we do to provide a safe and caring environment for everyone. Please do everything in your power to ensure that Eugene becomes a true sanctuary city. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Suchman is next, followed by Nadia Telsey.
Hello, my name is Eric Suchman. I'm a social studies teacher at North Eugene High School, and I'm a resident of Eugene. I'm here today in support of an ordinance that would make Eugene, Oregon a sanctuary city. I've written you all letters, I'm sure you've read, outlining my reasons to support this ordinance. This is good legislation that will be good for many aspects of our community. As a teacher, though, my connection to this ordinance and to this issue comes from what I see in schools. As a teacher here in Eugene for the last 12 years, I've worked with dozens of undocumented students and hundreds of students with undocumented family members. Today, many of these students and their families are scared, and they're looking to the city of Eugene to see how it will respond to the hateful rhetoric around the nation. In the last month, I've had some of the most difficult conversations of my 12-year teaching career. I spoke with a 15-year-old girl crying the day after the election because she worries her father would be deported. I listened to an 18-year-old 12th grader with a 3.6 GPA tell me he was not going to go to college because he was worried he was going to be deported before he graduated. I heard from a 16-year-old Mexican-American natural-born citizen of the United States asking me if people are ever deported by accident. Could someone who looks Mexican be deported, even if they're born in the U.S.? He wanted to know. I want to live in a community where I can reassure these children that their city, their school, and their law enforcement has their backs. An ordinance declaring Eugene to be a sanctuary would give educators around the city the resources and confidence to tell these children that they are safe. I do not pretend that this ordinance will magically eliminate intolerance from our city. We have a lot of work to do to ensure Eugene's a safe, welcoming, and just community. This is only a step, but it is a step in the right direction. It's a step towards making Eugene into the community we all want it to be. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Nadia Telsey is next, followed by Joanne Costales.
Hello, my name is Nadia Telsey. I'm a long-term resident of Eugene and a member of Surge, Showing Up for Racial Justice. And I'm speaking in behalf of the ordinance to make Eugene a sanctuary city. Not far from here, there is a memorial about the internment of Japanese Americans. And it reminds us of a shameful chapter in our history, one of many. We need to know there are mechanisms in place right now for registering Muslims and for deporting wholesale people from Mexico and other countries. And we ignore the warnings at our peril if we don't take this seriously. The threats right now have a tremendous impact on our neighbors who are experiencing increasing acts of hatred and living with heartbreaking fear. I can't do very much all by myself, and even this crowd can't do much, but you can. You can pass this ordinance that can make a difference. We've heard that those who ignore history are destined to repeat it. We know the history. The reminder is just a few blocks away. We're counting on you to take action and with the greatest speed to ensure the safety of us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Jean Costales, followed by Jennifer Skurlock.
Good evening. I thank you for your service. I'm Jean Costales. I live at 2755 University Street. I'm here to urge this City Council to adopt a resolution from the Human Rights Commission that Eugene become a sanctuary city that protects the civil and human rights of all its residents. These folks are friends and neighbors who live and work and shop in our city, who play and go to school with our children. These folks contribute to our economy by shopping in our stores and providing nearly 30% of small business startups. They help law enforcement by being unafraid to talk to local police about what is happening in our neighborhoods. That Eugene become a sanctuary city is a good and healthy thing for all of us, for the whole community, for good of the economy, for good of public safety, and besides, it is the right thing to do. I hope you all agree.
Jennifer Skurlock is next, followed by Roscoe Karen.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Skurlock, and I am the Minority Affairs Director for Eugene Education Association and a teacher at Churchill High School. The Eugene Education Association voted unanimously tonight to endorse an ordinance for the sanctuary city in Eugene, Oregon. Our Eugene Education Association mission statement is to empower professional educators and advocates for strong, vibrant, and equitable public schools that create hope and opportunity for students, their families, and our community. Our resolution states that the Eugene Education Association is committed to creating welcoming and equitable learning environments for all students, values and celebrates the diversity of our students, families, and community, condemns all forms of discrimination. As a result of these beliefs, Eugene Education Association supports the Eugene Human Rights Commission, city councilors, and City of Eugene in adopting an ordinance declaring Eugene a sanctuary city. We also call on the Eugene 4J and Bethel school boards to create and implement policies protecting the rights of all students and their families, regardless of their immigration status. I also speak on behalf of my mother, Ernestine Broaddus, who grew up here in Eugene when it was still segregated. And I carry her stories with me today. And when my students spoke to me and were crying in the back of my classroom as they were afraid of what was going to happen to them in their future, I made a vow that I was going to do something, that I was going to speak up for them in love and compassion and stand in the gap for them and to stand on my moral beliefs of what I know is right. We must make a stand. We must make a stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Roscoe Karen is next, followed by Charlie Landros.
Mayor Piercy and City Council members, thank you for all the work you do for our city. I live in George Brown's ward.
You say your name, Roscoe?
Roscoe Karen. For those who say that it can't happen here, it can. 10 years before the mass roundup and incarceration of people of Japanese descent, 10 years before, over twice that number of people of Mexican descent were rounded up primarily in Southern California, placed into train cars, and deported to Mexico. Many of them, by the way, were U.S. citizens. This happened in our country. This happened in the early 1930s, less than 100 years ago. I consider the ordinance that you will be considering to be an anti-terrorism ordinance, and by that I mean a way to address the terror that is being perpetrated across the United States by proposed policies that are racist in their essence, mean-spirited, and in their essence, violent. Please pass the strongest possible ordinance that you can. Thank you.
Charlie Landros is next, followed by Dave Fidanki.
Hello, my name is Charlie Landeros. I first want to acknowledge and thank all the Black and brown folk that showed up today. Your existence is radical and your voice is powerful. I'm here because of undocumented immigrants. My parents brought me to this country when I was just a baby. They wanted a better life for me, and I grew up with little means and a lot of hope. Hope that one day, if I worked hard enough, that I could have anything that I dreamed of. I think it's obvious as to why we need sanctuary here in our city. I don't think I need to express why we should protect families and keep them from being ripped apart. So here's my concern. What real protection are we going to offer the most vulnerable amongst us? The man who will soon be president has already said that within his first 100 days that he will dismantle and destroy all sanctuary cities. Now I think it's great that we will offer no assistance to ripping families apart. I will never advocate that we offer our resources to federal institutions to deport human beings. But my question goes, how far will non-compliance go? If we are to call ourselves a sanctuary city, what will that mean when push comes to shove? What will that mean when armed men come for my friends and family? I've been told by people that I am using hyperbole, and I hope those people are right, but nothing will surprise me anymore. If Trump simply does what he said he will, then I have no doubt that they will come with us with rifles in hand. If we are going to be a beacon of hope, and I pray that we are, and tell people to come here, then how far are we going to go to keep them safe? Will we silently sit as families are ripped apart? Will we say that our hands are tied? Will we be content saying that, well, at least we didn't participate? And I'm sorry that I come here with no easy solutions. I only come with questions. But I think the first step in finding answers is being brave enough to ask the questions. This country was built on the backs of my people. And I do, so, thank you.
Thank you. Dave Fidanki is next, followed by John Moriarty.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. David Fidanki, resident of Eugene since 1974, and now a retired staff member from the ACLU of Oregon, appearing here as a volunteer and member of the drafting committee that helped put together the draft ordinance that has been presented to you by the Human Rights Commission. I have given to the city manager a copy of a letter that I believe was emailed to all of you this afternoon from the ACLU of Oregon endorsing the proposed ordinance strongly. And I wanted to just highlight for you that the ACLU was instrumental in the passage of the 3 state laws that restrict the activities of law enforcement agencies in Oregon. The first in 1981, which prohibits police surveillance when there's no individualized suspicion of criminal activity, if that surveillance is based on political, religious, or social activities. The second, which prohibited state and local law enforcement agencies from participating in the enforcement of civil immigration violations. And finally, the 2015 statute, which prohibits profiling based on various categories by law enforcement. The ordinance that has been forwarded to you would bring all of those 3 laws into the city code and apply them beyond the police department to all city agencies. And I hope it will meet with unanimous approval from this council, and I would be happy to provide any assistance I can in that effort. Thank you.
Thank you. John Moriarty, followed by Roy Ward, or Roy, I think it is.
Mayor Piercy, members of the council, my name is John Moriarty, and I live in downtown Eugene. I'm here tonight speaking as a private citizen, but I want to begin, I'm here and also to speak in favor of the Sanctuary City Ordinance. And I want to begin by sharing an experience from my work at School Garden Project. You've heard from many teachers here tonight, and I can tell you as well that our instructors who work in schools across 3 of our local districts, within 2 days of the election, were coming back with stories of fear among their students, the sort of fear you've heard about, losing family members, older siblings, wondering what might happen to them, because fear comes not just from what's happening, but also the confusion about what's happening. And I can tell you that as an educator, as someone who works in our community around education, fear interferes with the ability to learn and to teach. And our duty as citizens, as community members, as residents, as neighbors, is to create conditions where our children can learn. I've never been in a position to have to think about what it's like to leave my family, my friends, my neighborhood, my country, to go to a place where I don't speak the language, where I don't know the customs, in order to survive, in order to live. So I can't speak from that perspective. But I do feel very strongly that we're living in unusual times right now. And many might ask why we would stand with undocumented citizens, for example, or undocumented residents, excuse me. They're not citizens. The Constitution doesn't apply. But I am afraid that what we're seeing is the beginning of focusing on the most vulnerable. But that's not where it ends. And our duty as neighbors and community members is to stand with the most vulnerable. And that's where we need to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Roy Ward is next, followed by David Wilkin.
Hello, I'm Roy Ward. I'm an immigrant. I arrived here from New Zealand 7 years ago, and I have jumped through all the hoops to get the green card. One thing that has always made Eugene really special to me is how welcome I've been made to feel, both by citizens and by other immigrants. That's been a real defining thing of my stay here so far, and I'm speaking in support of the Sanctuary City, because I feel that this welcome should not be limited based on documentation, gender identity, or race. That we're a diverse, great city, and I love living here. Thank you.
David Wilkin is next, followed by Larissa Petrucci.
Thank you, Mayor Percy and members of the City Council. My name's David Wilkin, Ward 7. I'm here, and I'm also a librarian at University of Oregon. I'm here speaking as a union activist, a faculty member, and of course, including a member of the Executive Council of the United Academics of University of Oregon, the union of tenure-track and non-tenure track faculty on campus. And I'm speaking in support of the resolution before the council to make the Eugene a sanctuary city. Our administration and faculty senate at the University of Oregon have endorsed similar policies. In particular, this has meant 3 policies that our university president Michael Schill has stated we will enforce. The University of Oregon will not facilitate immigration enforcement on our campus without a warrant or a clear demonstration of exigent circumstances, such as imminent risk to the health or safety of others. The University of Oregon Police Department will not act on behalf of federal officials in enforcing immigration law. And the University of Oregon will not share with the federal government any information on the immigration status of students unless required by a court order. Our faculty senate at this almost exactly the same time endorsed the same policies. One of the authors of that policy is actually in the back corner. She'd hoped to speak but arrived a little too late. Then the United Academics Executive Council last week considered an endorsement of the city resolution. We have endorsed it in full. We would like to see this pass in the city of Eugene. We support it as a union because our umbrella organization, the American Association of University Professors, has endorsed these policies on campuses. We've seen over 150 campuses endorse these. But also this affects our members and our students. Many of our members are immigrants. Many of our members' families are immigrants. Our students' families are potentially targeted by anything going after undocumented immigrants. Thank you.
Larissa Petrucci is next, followed by Ty Pruce Zimmerman.
I'm Larissa Petrucci. I appreciate your time and consideration here today. I am a member of the Graduate Teaching Fellows Federation, the graduate employee union at the University of Oregon, and I just wanted to also support the ordinance establishing Eugene as a sanctuary city. I think it's crucial and important that Eugene become a sanctuary city. So, thank you.
Thank you. Ty Bruce Zimmerman next, followed by Carmen Urbina.
I'm Ty Bruce Zimmerman from Ward 6. Thank you for having me. And Mayor Piercy and Councilor Brown, thank you so much for your wonderful years of service. I'm pleased that the Human Rights Commission saw fit to put forth an ordinance with the full force of law, not mere platitudes. And I urge you to maintain the Commission's resolve and ensure passage of the strongest possible ordinance to protect our communities and to broaden and strengthen the protections offered by current state law. It's important that we all understand that state law as it exists is not strong enough. We call ourselves a sanctuary state because of ORS 181, but unjustified deportations are already a clear and present threat that tear apart Oregon communities far too often. So I don't just ask you for your vote in favor of the ordinance. I ask for your utmost effort in strengthening the ordinance in any additional way we can before its passage. Any opportunity to tweak language somewhere, to add a new protection, to make a protection stronger, more effective, to make this sanctuary city ordinance truly mean what it's called, is what I hope for from you. So, thank you.
Carmen Urbina is next, followed by Angela Finnerman.
Good evening, Mayor Piercy, City Council. Carmen Urbina, resident of Eugene for the last 26 years. And I just want to start by a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King, which says, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." And I have worked in this community for the last 24 years with the immigrant community. And I work with many of you, City Council members. And I can't speak on this issue without crying. And I'm not going to apologize for my tears, because I always say, if we can come and understand the impact that the current presidential election and the election of Trump has done in our community. And one of the things that I always say, Liz, what is empathy? Seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. And what's happening currently in the community, I have never seen in 24 years living in Eugene, the fear and the impact that this has had. And most importantly, you've heard from a lot of educators, the impact that it's having on our children. When a group of mothers get together and cry and say, I am more fearful of how our children are coming back from school and the trauma that they are experiencing. And what saddens me is that it's our white babies against our brown babies, and the bullying and harassment because of some of the things that you've already heard, and it's racialized. So what I'm here to ask, and fully for the City Council to support not only the petition today that's in front of you, but also to move it forward for this to become an ordinance, because we need to take a strong stance in support of an immigrant community. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela Finneran is next, followed by Alice Louise Warner.
Good evening. My name is Angela Farron. I live in Ward 6, and I thank you for your time. I want to thank the Human Rights Commission for moving forward the proposals of the ordinance to make Eugene sanctuary city. In my first 2 years of teaching in rural Southern Oregon, I saw how common it was for immigration to come in the middle of the night and take the parents of young U.S. citizens and leave them orphaned indefinitely and terrified. I hope that Eugene will protect my students and their families, but I also think that it's an important first step in saying that Eugene is not a place where we are going to allow people to be treated as anything less than human. I have taught in many places in Oregon. I love my children, and I teach, I love the children I teach, and I try my best to provide my students with a safe and kind place where they can be free to be themselves. But the world is not always a safe and kind place. and I can only do so much as a teacher to protect them. During my first years of teaching, there was white students who would repeatedly call Hispanic students their slaves because many of the families worked on the other families' farms. At a different school, when a white 7th grader told a black student that he would like to see he and his family hang using very threatening and racial graphic language, I was told that sending the student to the principal's office was overreacting. But the student thanked me for protecting him because no one ever had before. Now I live in Eugene. While I know that Eugene schools do in fact do their best to not only tolerate diversity but celebrate it, our children are still hearing hurtful and incorrect messages. Last year, a young lady and her girlfriend were repeatedly told how unnatural they were by classmates. I've heard a student who speaks Arabic be told by other peers that she speaks that terrorist language. And 2 weeks ago at a theater practice, an amazing, incredible young woman asked if she would be allowed to audition for the part of Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz because she was not white and she wasn't sure if she could. Thank you.
Thank you. Alice Louise Warner is next, followed by Sue Saralupe.
Good evening. I live in Mr. Zelenka's ward in Eugene, and I'm a public interest attorney and teacher. I urge you to fast-track passage of this no registry, yes sanctuary law, completing the process by January 21. January 21 is the day when a white supremacist will become chief strategy advisor to the President of the United States. The President has the power to issue executive orders, which become effective immediately. He also has the power to spread and magnify fear and to name what I will call, with quotes, an enemy. Fear can spread like wildfire, even when it is baseless, like the fear that Oregonians who looked like an enemy were in fact a threat. The time to create local protections is before January 21. This is the calm before the storm. There are times in history when we are called to use all of the skills and resources we have to protect harm. This is the time, and we need your leadership.
Sue Saralupe is next, followed by Jonathan, it looks like Schuler.
My name is Sue Saralupe, and I am in Ward 1. Thank you, George Brown, for your service, and thank you, Mayor Piercy, as well. I am also the clinic manager for Occupy Medical, and we have seriously enjoyed our time at 509, having a roof over our head to give out street medicine. However, this roof has come with a bit of a price because the people that we are taking care of, many of them used to live downtown as unhoused residents, and they, due to the social cleansing experiment this fall, are now finding refugee status themselves somewhere in other parts of the neighborhood. And for the elderly that no longer have access to the dining hall, the dining room, which is where free food is, to water fountains, to hygiene facilities, to shelters, to places where they were used to going through to get food and a doorway that was safe for them. The elderly, the medically and the mentally fragile are right now being seriously damaged. We're used to seeing amputation season happen in February, and we are now seeing it in December. I am very uncomfortable with this because I know it's preventable. I'm also very uncomfortable seeing our elderly patients come to us with serious bouts of pneumonia. We have one that has been back and forth since the social cleansing experiment 5 times with pneumonia. He simply has no place to stay dry other than the tablecloth that he has been using to protect himself and his dog. Please stop this social cleansing experiment. It isn't working, and it's killing our people, which is, in the way it's doing it, is institutionalized torture. I ask you to stop standing for that.
Jonathan Schuler is next, followed by Manuel Gonzalez.
Hello, my name is Jonathan Shoker, and I'm a manager at Eugene OG, a local marijuana dispensary with 30 employees. It is my belief that the 1,000-foot buffer that was in place for medical marijuana dispensaries was hugely beneficial for keeping our local market from getting oversaturated and becoming economically unstable. I think the same rule should be put into effect by the City of Eugene to protect the jobs and businesses that are currently here. For the past 2 years, there have been approximately 25 dispensaries in Eugene, and the 1,000-foot buffer has prevented any particular neighborhood from getting more than its share of them. The buffer has worked to bring this new industry into Eugene in a way that it hasn't offended most people. Why should we throw that successful buffer out now that the industry is transitioning to recreational marijuana? Thank you for your time and consideration.
Manuel Gonzalez is next, followed by what looks like Johannes Tadeo.
Good evening, council members, Mayor Piercy. For the record, my name is Manuel Mejia Gonzalez. And in relation to Eugene, I am a transfer student in the University of Oregon and have been an employee of the 4J district for a little bit over a year now, which is in a way what I want to talk to you all about. During my short time, but very opportune time, subbing as a teacher assistant, I've seen many noteworthy characters, to say the least, regarding the U.S. election, alongside tens of teachers who feel like they're not providing an adequate space for learning, a safe space for learning. This goes without mentioning, I've seen my own students more than once walk out of class in protest of injustice. Furthering my worries, however, on Tuesday, November 8th, 2016, the embedded historic systems of white supremacy in the United States facilitated the victory of an open, misogynistic, xenophobic, Islamophobic, racist individual with no previous diplomatic experience, only protected by his wealth and whiteness, into the highest office of this land. Needless to say, this recent election has exposed the hostile relations of race in the United States and has risen much fear among undocumented communities as the veil of a post-racial society under the leadership of a black president has been lifted to unmask chauvinist America, to say the least. An America with great anti-immigrant sentiment based on exclusively misinformation, and these communities have been the economic backbone of this great nation. In order to effectively protect the communities, and they will be prosecuted and further stratified under this administration, a community of organizers in coalition with the Human Rights Commission are presenting this ordinance, one of many to come. Learning from our history, the city of Eugene should address this ordinance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Johannes Tadeo. Johannes?
No.
Nope. Michael Kerrigan, followed by Ann Gates Tapia.
My name is Michael Kerrigan. I live in Ward 7. And before I speak, I want to thank you, Kitty, and you, George, for your years of service here on council. I have an adopted daughter, Jyoti, who we brought from India about 18 years ago. She's an immigrant who has thrived in this community. She loves it here. She's treated with dignity and respect by all she comes in touch with. I want every immigrant who comes to this community to be treated the same way, to feel safe, to feel respected. So I strongly urge you to support the creation of an ordinance establishing the strongest, most comprehensive sanctuary city that we can. And please do it before January 21st. And on a different matter, as a member of 350 Eugene, I also thank you in advance for passing the no crude by rail resolution. Thank you.
Ann Gates Tapia is next, followed by Jennifer Hayward.
Hello, my name is Anna Gates Tapia, and I'm the Dean of English as a Second Language at Lane Community College. I'm here tonight on behalf of students, faculty, and staff in my department who have expressed deep concern at the hateful rhetoric gaining so much traction at the national level, and acts of aggression aimed towards immigrants and international visitors here locally. I wish to express my strong support for the petition to make the City of Eugene a sanctuary city. I believe taking this step is more than symbolic. It demonstrates concrete action that shows immigrant and international members of our community that their future is important, that their contributions are valued, that their city's officials are committed to protecting them, and that the entire community's well-being is bound to theirs. Before I step down, I wish to read a letter written by an ESL student at Lane. I am writing in support of having a sanctuary city. I am an immigrant and I have lived here since 2003. I have a daughter who was 2 years old when we came here. Now she is in high school and has a 3.8 GPA. I would be so thankful if we could have a sanctuary city in Eugene. That would make us safe. We hard workers and good people who contribute to paying taxes, paying health insurance, investing in the economy, and respecting the law. My daughter is bilingual. I would like her to graduate in order to contribute to the education system and to society. Thank you for your time and consideration. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer Hayward is next, followed by Jim McCarthy.
Jennifer Hayward, Ward 2. I'm here to urge the City Council to adopt the Sanctuary City Ordinance before January 20th. Thank you.
Jim McCarthy is next, followed by Phil Carrasco.
Good evening. My name is Jim McCarthy. I'm in Betty Taylor's district. I just want to comment that I think the guest viewpoint in the newspaper about the UAB building nailed it. I think it was everything it should have said. I believe it's a beautiful environment. I envision the whole river being a beautiful place like Corvallis has done or Portland has done, where we have restaurants, we have hotels, we have a beautiful place to walk, to eat dinner, and I can envision that going all the way through Glenwood in the future. And that would be an anchor building for that whole project to happen, along with what the University of Oregon is going to be doing with the millions of dollars they're going to be spending on their new science facilities along the river. We have an opportunity to make that a gem that could not be replicated. I had the pleasure of doing work in that UAB building on many occasions, and that whole wall along the river has got beautiful views from all the offices, very relaxing environment for employees to work in, and I had many employees comment that they absolutely loved working in that building, and they did not want to go out to Roosevelt Boulevard. The other comment I wanted to make was that my wife and I have been frequent attendees of Actors Cabaret and Oregon Contemporary Theater. We no longer choose to go downtown in the evenings. My wife is fearful. I'm not very comfortable with it either at my age. And I have a granddaughter that works at 8th and Olive, and she says that she's afraid to go out of the office to go out for lunch, and she hustles to her car after work at 5 o'clock when it's dark. Thank you very much. Thank you for your service.
Phil Carrasco is next, followed by Joe Tyndall.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Piercy, for your years of service. We appreciate you very much. And Councilor Pryor, thank you very much for being a great liaison from the Human Rights Commission to the City Council. And Councilor Brown as well, thank you so very much for being our City Councilor for so many years. I reside in Ward 1. So our community, as you can see or have heard now, truly believes in the power of unity, truly believes in our human rights city, and understands that the protection of all of our residents is a way of life here. Regardless of immigration status, religion, gender, housing status, all are welcome here, and we believe in building bridges, not walls. This is and will continue to be a community-driven project. I'm very proud to be part of it. So we've come here tonight to reiterate our request to consider the petition and consider an ordinance to continue to build a community's trust in law enforcement, city government, and elected officials. Not only will this ordinance enforce state law, but we will expand it for all vulnerable segments of the population. I am part of the Oregon AFL-CIO, proudly of the State Federation, and we support it. I am part of GLAD, Grupo Latino de Acción Directa, and we support it. I'm part of a little family. Jessica, my wife, Ava, and Lucia, my amazing daughters. They're 2 and 7. And we support it. And behind me, if y'all can see the growing support, if you can show me by a fist how many support, we stand together and raise our hands in making Eugene a sanctuary city. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Joe Tyndall is next, followed by Jim Hale.
Good evening, Joe Tyndall. A month ago, during your post-election proclamation discussion, the virtual signaling was off the scale. Without vote the vagina identity politics, Hillary would have lost far worse. Or Bernie might have defeated Trump. The craziness this past month was also off the scale. Contrary to popular myth, Trump is not Hitler. Can we de-escalate the rhetoric back to reality? Yes, fear has been manufactured as a political tool, but is that fear warranted by reality? Detroit's overvotes have crushed the recount. But what about that Nevada county Hillary won, where 17,000 registered voters were mailed certified letters and more than half were undeliverable? How is it that most of those bogus registrations voted this year? The evidence is solid to claim the 2000 and 2004 elections were stolen using paperless electronic voting machines. Evidence indicates the 2016 primary was also hijacked. Were Hillary's totals similarly boosted in the general election? I care about who wins, but I am far more concerned that elections are fair and honest. Hillary lost in large part because millions of Americans are sick of cry-bullies, professional victims, colonization and destruction of organizations, authoritarian speech police, and so on. Name-calling, purges for wrongthink, false news, and demonstrations over nonsense are not winning friends. Social justice has become an Orwellian term. It creates more injustice than it solves. For example, Martin Luther King would be appalled by the calls for segregation. Item by item, the social justice narrative fails when examined in open and respectful discussion. I challenge any social justice warrior to publicly debate the veracity of the social justice narrative. Prove me wrong by answering criticism without engaging in a shout-down.
Jim Hale is next, followed by Lynn Stephen.
Jim Hale, I live in Ward 5. Thank you, Kitty. Thank you, George. Many years ago, the City Council of Eugene was really proud of their planning when they built that building that you tore down. They were glad to have all their city departments housed in that building, and they put their name on the wall. They were proud of their planning and their foresight. Many years ago, the EWEB board was proud of their new building. And you should go down there, you'll see their names on the wall. They were proud of their planning and their foresight and their forward-looking leadership of the utility that serves all of us in the city of Eugene. But there are limitations to our wisdom for all of us. In both cases, they did not successfully anticipate the needs of the future. I submit to you that you cannot do that either, not because you're not really smart people, but because you're not any smarter than any of those folks were. I think it's time for us to go ahead with the UWEB idea, which has always been before us, where we can make a sound decision to follow up on a bad decision by UWEB at one point in the past. Your city department heads a few years ago were really proud of their recommendation, saying that there was no need to consolidate departments. They're really proud to say that because they were all in rebellion against the only woman city manager Eugene has ever had. They're really proud to say that they didn't have any real reason to be part of the headshed. They were perfectly happy being in separate buildings. You know, we really don't need to build a monument to the future. We just need to plan for taking care of what we need to do now in the very most economical way that we possibly can. And if you do that, there'll be a lot of Eugenians who will be very proud of the City Council. Thank you very much.
Lynn, you're next, followed by Moshe Immerman.
Good evening, Mayor Piercy, City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I speak as a mother, a spouse. My name is Lynn Steven. Forgot that part.
Right.
Sorry. I speak as a mother, a spouse, also as a teacher at the University of Oregon. I work with a lot of students of color, Latino students, immigrant students. We have had students who have recently told us that they are afraid to come back to school, that their parents do not want them to leave the house, particularly if they're out of state. We've had incidents of swastikas, name calling for speaking Spanish, and many other incidents that have happened after the University of Oregon declared itself to be a sanctuary campus. I was one of the authors of that resolution. I'm very proud of the university and of the president, and I strongly support the city passing an ordinance to be a sanctuary city. But beyond that, beyond Eugene police not cooperating with immigration enforcement and refusing to participate in any kind of registry for Muslims or other categories of people, we also need to be proactive in terms of providing legal counsel for non-citizens, training city employees and others to actively intervene in what are going to be ongoing incidents of bias, and also to coordinate different kinds of services for people who may have mental health issues, who are suffering from anxiety, fear, stress from a hostile climate, and open racism. That's something that we're trying to do at the university. I also think we have to be vigilant because there are people working to repeal the Oregon law that we have from 1981 that says that our police will not intervene. Thank you.
Thank you. Moshe Immerman, you're next, followed by Aaron Barnhart.
Moshe Immerman, good to see you, friends and neighbors and sisters and brothers. We're in profound times. I'm a Buddhist priest, a professional research ecologist and therapist. Every time I testify, it's in support of my federal oath of office I many times took as a park ranger in many national parks. Please write down these numbers. I'll tell you why. First one is Oregon Elections Division, Secretary of State's Office, 503-986-1523. Please, it's crucial to call them. 503-986-1523, Oregon Secretary of State Elections Division. The Lane County Democratic Party, 541-484-5099. Mr. Trump is an environmental terrorist like we've never seen. I've been calling friends who are clergy, former members of the Electoral College, high military officials and others. We're unanimous that we think he's an agent of a foreign power and has committed treason. The CIA seems to agree. They did a great thing. We should tell the Electoral College, hi, postpone the election until the CIA and the Congress determines what this is. We now know Vladimir Putin and this team have now taken over the country. Global warming, there's a group in the Pentagon called ONA, Office of Net Assessment. It's a terrific group. They've determined global warming is the greatest national security threat we face. Mr. Trump does not understand this. The impact of global warming on Eugene will be huge. I used to do multiple thousand-year ecological modeling projects at Williams College. Call these people at the Secretary of State's office, find out the phone numbers of the electors, call them, start the national movement. We have a terrorist like we've never seen who should not be in office as the CIA has determined. Also call Congressman Adam Schiff, ranking Democrat, and find out more. Please do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron Barnhart is next, followed by Elise Self. Aaron? Yeah.
Good evening. My name is Erin Barnhart. I am a resident of Eugene. I am an adjunct professor who teaches undergraduate, graduate, and online courses for national service members as well. I want to share a perspective of being a professor working with students who are recent immigrants or first-generation students. I have taught courses on international development, speaking about global issues and the importance of understanding and seeking to become global citizens. I have had students who are first-generation students who learned English as a second language, who are recent immigrants themselves. What these students all had in common and what their families had in common was the desire to make this world a better place however they could, including the U.S. communities to which they emigrated. I've also had the rare opportunity to visit a refugee camp in Jordan. I was led around and met Palestinian refugees and had the rare privilege of hearing their stories. What I heard was fear and desperation for a home, but also a lot of hope for themselves, for better lives for their children. These experiences gave me a tiny inkling of an understanding of what it must be like to be a refugee in this country. The chance or fate, depending on what you believe, of where one is born should not dictate the value of one's humanity. And I firmly believe that the status of one's citizenship should not determine whether or not they are deserving of safety and protection. I urge you, City Council, Mayor Piercy, to support making Eugene a sanctuary city. Thank you.
Elise Self is next, followed by Alfredo Gormazano.
Hello, my name is Elise Self, and I'm here in support of making Eugene a sanctuary city. What they all said. I want to tell you that I approve very much and encourage the very inclusive language in this ordinance. I happen to be the mother of a lesbian daughter. She's got a fine life in Seattle. She has her own daughter, a wife. But the first thing in the email when they wrote me after the election, and I was very surprised actually to hear it, both she and her partner were feeling scared. Now, whether they should be or not is really beside the point. They're feeling that way. I want to thank the educators in this audience tonight because they are our first line of defense for our students. Always have been, always will be. They were there for my daughter, and I know that they're there now for these students who are feeling so scared. Thank you, Councilor Brown, for your service, and Kitty, thank you. You're such a supporter and advocate, and thank you so much.
Alfredo Gormazano is next, and the last is Jim Anderson.
Yes, it's me again, Alfredo Gormazano, Ward 1. So, in regards to this being your last City Council meeting, I'm going to repeat the advice I gave you last time, which is declare martial law and refuse to step down. Everyone here with me? Anyway, thank you so much for your service, and you too, Councilman Brown, very much. So I'm here tonight for many reasons. One, yes, please pass this ordinance making it a sanctuary city. We're facing a situation where we don't know what's coming in the future. We may have heavy hands coming down upon us, upon all of us. We need to be prepared for that. I'd like to see language included in this ordinance to protect any police officer that refuses to go along with human rights violating orders. I want to see them protected. I want to know that they've got recourse. They can stand up for humanity against whatever they may be expected to do. We don't know if this is going to be the reality or not, but it might become the reality. Also, I was here whenever it was a while back when people were saying how unsafe they felt downtown. I left this meeting and went straight into the park blocks to the first group of homeless people, very scary looking people that I saw, and talked to them. I said, you know, you guys, you got to get it together because they're talking about cracking down on you all out here. Talk to all your friends on the street. Tell them they got to back down from harassing people. They said, well, we do that, but the police stop us from doing it. People don't realize that there's differences between the travelers and some of the homeless and the druggies and the non-druggies. We have to see that difference. There are jerks out there on the street. There are also jerks in political office, you know? Not here, not here. We're humans. They're humans out there. So thank you.
Jim Anderson is next. Kid to leave. Okay, then. I'm going to close the public forum. Thank everyone for coming. I'm going to ask Councilor Pryor to speak.
Thank you. As the council representative to the Human Rights Commission, I have been working with them closely on the most appropriate and desirable process for how to create a sanctuary city ordinance. And I have been persuaded that creating such an ordinance at the local level is something that would be appropriate and desirable. So I would like to begin that process tonight by asking the mayor, as one of her final acts in office, to appoint a work group to begin crafting concepts, goals, and outcomes for an ordinance that would be brought to this council. These concepts would be brought to the council in a work session the first week of February, so the council could review them and upon approval give them to the city attorney for drafting into legally appropriate ordinance language that would then be brought to the council and set for a public hearing at the earliest possible convenience.
Before I respond to that, I want to ask the city manager and Glenn. I am perfectly willing to say, with the mayor's purview, that I would form that committee. Is that I meet all of the standards I need to by doing that?
Correct. The mayor has, and as you have in the past, formed ad hoc committees. This would be such a committee.
So, yes. All right. It's done. All right. Moving on. Councilor Taylor has a motion she wants to put on the table.
Thank you. I move to direct the city manager to prepare for council proposed resolution opposing the transportation by rail of oil through the city of Eugene, and to bring that to council in January.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right, ready to vote on that? All those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In opposition? 2. Is clear on the 3, 4, 5. In opposition?
I'm on the phone.
And your vote?
I vote yes.
Okay, so it's 6-2 in favor, and it wins. Okay, so we're done with that, and we're now going to go to the consent calendar. Council President.
I move to approve the items on the.
Hold on for just a second.
I had just one more thing that was related to my previous item. I wanted to ask the city manager if he would reference an administrative order that he issued today.
Yeah. In the message you sent to us.
Yes, how would you like me to reference that?
Just would you let the folks here know that you have issued this administrative order?
Yes, and maybe what I can just do is give a quick synopsis of what it is rather than reading the order. And essentially, last month, the City Council adopted a resolution affirming our community's commitment to a safe community. And the resolution called for us to continue the work we do to fully and fairly serve the people who reside and visit and pass through Eugene. And so today I did signed an administrative order, which I've attached, and I'd be happy to send to whoever who would like it, which continues our work on building an inclusive and safe community. And the order clarifies our existing implementation of state law and extends the law to all city employees. And the state law says that no law enforcement agency of the state of Oregon or of any political subdivision of the state shall use agency monies, equipment, or personnel for the purpose of detecting or apprehending persons whose only violation of law is that they are persons of foreign citizenship present in the United States in violation of federal immigration laws. And by extending the application of the statute to apply to all City of Eugene employees, I think it strengthens an informal policy which has guided our city operations for years, and it clarifies and affirms to our community that we are serious and intentional about the manner in which our team of professionals serves anyone who lives in or passes through Eugene. So thank you. Did that today.
Yep. All right, now.
I move to approve the items on the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Claire? Councilor Surratt?
Vote yes.
Okay, 8 in favor and none in opposition. It passes. Next item, I'm going to adjourn the meeting of the Eugene City Council and convene the meeting of the Eugene Urban Renewal Agency. And we have the Urban Renewal Agency action on Resolution 1080. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. The audit firm Eisler CPA has completed the audit of the agency's annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2016, and issued a clean opinion. For policymakers, a clean opinion means that the information in the financial report is accurate and reliable. In addition, the auditors noted that nothing came to their attention that caused them to believe that the agency was not in compliance with state regulations pertaining to debt, deposit of public funds, preparation and adoption of the budget, counting records, and the related internal control structure. We are asking that the board approve a resolution acknowledging that it received the report.
Council President?
I move to approve a resolution acknowledging receipt of the annual financial report for the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Eugene for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2016.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Seeing no hands up, all those in favor, please indicate. 7, Councilor Surratt?
I vote yes.
8 in favor and none in opposition. It passes. Thank you.
Already approved it.
Councilor Polling wants to be sure that people understand that the annexation issues are on our consent calendar, which we've already passed. So if anybody is here for that, those have already been moved forward under the consent calendar. Okay, so now we're going to do the Urban Renewal Agency public hearing and action, and City Manager will introduce the topic.
This is a required hearing for the FY17 Urban Renewal Agency supplemental budget. The supplemental budget recognizes marginal beginning working capital and other unanticipated changes in legal appropriation. Approval is requested tonight in order to allow for necessary legal appropriations.
Thank you, and I see that the only person signed up is somebody who really knows how to do this well, John Borofsky.
Wouldn't be a supplemental budget without John Borofsky.
Good evening, Mayor and City Councils. My name is John Borofsky. I live in Ward 3. I'm speaking to you tonight on the supplemental budget for the Urban Renewal District's downtown and riverfront research area. First off, thank you to Councilor Brown and Mayor Piercy for putting up with me for these last 8 to 10 years of talking to you when nobody else wants to. Just a couple of things that jumped out to me in the supplemental budget for the Urban Renewal District that I wasn't really aware of, and you guys might be aware of, and if so, I appreciate you taking a look at it. The first was, both of these are in the Riverfront Urban Renewal District. One of the things that jumped out to me was a $200,000 funding for public engagement contract and the old LCC building consultant contract. I just wasn't sure exactly what that was for. Again, I haven't been tuned in quite as much as everybody else has. And then the other thing that jumped out to me was the $975 million transfer to purchase the EWIP property. Again, I wasn't aware that had gone forward. I'm sure that you guys are, but just for the public also, it seems like the Urban Renewal Agency is buying a chunk of ground. So those were the two things that jumped out to me in the Urban Renewal District supplemental budgets, and I just wanted to point them out to people who are watching and other people that may not know like me.
Close the public hearing, and I guess the comment I would make is that supplemental budgets do not dispense dollars. Correct? They tell you what what you're putting it aside for, but then you bring it back for, yeah, they don't appropriate. They do appropriate?
I should probably get some clarification. So there's, it does appropriate. I think there's for example, the one that John brought up on the eWeb purchase,
Right.
property purchase. As you know, what the council has authorized us to do is to negotiate for that. It is not a completed negotiation. This is the maximum amount that the council has said they would even pay for the property, given a whole lot of other circumstances in this negotiation. So that isn't necessarily the dollar amount. And so what this does is it appropriates the dollars. So if we come to an agreement, the dollars are appropriated and we can enter into an agreement with eWeb. And so in that case, that it does appropriate those dollars.
Got it.
Pre-approval for a loan.
Yeah, pre-approval for a loan, right. Okay, thank you for that. And now I'm going to ask if there are any other questions or comments from City Council. Okay, and then I'm going to ask, does any councilor object to taking action tonight? Okay, then I'm going to ask the Urban Renewal Agency President to put a resolution out there.
I move to adopt a resolution adopting a supplemental budget making appropriations for the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Eugene for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016 and ending June 30, 2017.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Being no further discussion.
All four of them?
We're going to vote on it. All right, all those in favor? 7. Councilor Surratt?
I vote yes.
8 in favor and none in opposition. It passes. I'm going to adjourn the meeting of the Eugene Urban Renewal Agency and reconvene the meeting of the Eugene City Council. And next up is a public hearing and action on Resolution 5179. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And tonight is a required public hearing for the first FY17 supplemental budget. The supplemental budget recognizes new revenue, marginal beginning working capital, and authorizes other unanticipated changes in legal appropriations. And approval is requested tonight in order to allow for necessary legal appropriations.
So we have 7 people signed up. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. You have 3 minutes to comment. There are lights on the timer. The red light indicates the end of 3 minutes, and we have 7 people signed up. First up is Michael Kerrigan.
My name is Michael Kerrigan. I'm still a resident of Ward 7. And also, I forgot to mention earlier that I speak tonight on behalf of Community Alliance of Lane County, or CAL. I was excited to see in the proposed supplemental budget that there is more funds appropriated or suggested to help the homeless in our community, support the $50,000 for car camping, $75,000 for the Limholm Center for rest stops, another $25,000. That is just a wonderful thing, and I think it'll really help our community. But let's think big. What about we expand the Dusk to Dawn program, spend $104,000 doing that. I've spoken before supporting a rest stop in every ward. We should appropriate money to fund that. So how about each one in each ward at $60,000 apiece? And finally, we really need a public shelter in this town. Wouldn't it be great if we could appropriate $3 million for that? So thank you for helping out the homeless in the budget. But like I said, let's think big, let's do more. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Pat Riley, followed by Carlene Riley.
Good evening, Mayor Piercy and councilors all, and so glad to have the service of you, Mayor Piercy, and George Brown as our councilor. I live in Clare's. I'm Carlene Riley, and I live at 395 Marion Lane, and I am in Claire Surratt's unincorporated area. River Road and Santa Clara neighbors are here to encourage you to support the supplemental budget that contains funding for planning for our neighborhoods. We appreciate John Reese reaching out to our neighborhood leaders in April 2010 to inquire about our neighbors' experiences with the mix of incorporated and unincorporated properties. There's general confusion. And what our neighborhoods need. Our neighborhood needs new planning documents. In September of 2010, Reese offered to initiate new plans for our neighborhoods. Over the next 6.5 years, Reese, our mayors, our city councilors, and the executive team provided consultations and technical assistance to support our neighborhood team. 8 River Road and Santa Clara neighbors participated in Envision Eugene. This was our core to begin organizing a team of neighbors for our planning effort. We conducted extensive outreach that allowed us to talk to about 750 neighbors, businesses, a Latino group, and a group of teens at North Eugene High School. Our neighbors validated priorities from a transition study: land use, transportation, governance, and parks and recreation. Neighbors added public safety because there had been a great number of burglaries, and they had concerns about speed limit being overrun on River Road and on the side streets. During 2014, we conducted 15 listening sessions, 7 in each neighborhood, plus a Latina session, and talked with 110 neighbors about their concerns, solutions, worst-case scenario, and best outcomes in those 5 areas. In addition, we obtained valuable information, and relationships were built and community was grown. These neighbors were the starting point for a River Road and Santa Clara Community Resource Group. River Road neighbors receive a weekly email with notices of meetings and accomplishments. Santa Clara's CRG has a monthly meeting.
Next up is John Borofsky, followed by Josh Sco.
Pat.
Oh, is Pat?
Yeah, they switched.
Oh, they switched?
They switched.
Is Pat here to speak?
Yeah.
Sorry, Pat. There you are. Sorry, Pat. I thought
My
you were
name is
here
Pat
for-
Riley. I live at 395 Marion Lane with Carlene.
Good.
And I don't normally speak for her, but I've been directed to do that this evening, so I will finish her presentation. At this point in time, we have inspected our land use and transportation documents, identified concerns, and pinpointed some solutions. We are anticipating a 2017 River Road Corridor study to integrate land use and transportation improvements. This study would be an opportune time to initiate planning for our entire neighborhood. We would see neighborhoods as a whole rather than being separated as a corridor and the rest of the neighborhood. Marrying the projects would help avoid citizen fatigue when they give public input. We hope our planning begins soon so our neighbors' information remains relevant. We have done our homework. We are ready to begin planning. We hope you will provide the needed funds and assign planning staff for us to get underway. Thank you for your consideration. And thank you for your service.
Thank you. Now Josh Sco, followed by Marty Wilde.
What about John Borofsky?
Oh, John Borofsky first. Okay. I've already put that down. Sorry, John. All right. We'll get it right.
What are all these people doing at my public hearing? Good evening, John Borofsky, Ward 3. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm speaking today about the Supplemental Budget 1. And I think there's a lot of good things that have been put forward in the Supplemental Budget. I'd like to just touch on a few of them. There's good things for downtown development, $150,000 for the Coordinated Downtown Development Initiative, $200,000 for park safety, downtown cleaning, and downtown programming are all one-time asks for this, which I think are all positive things. In planning and development, there's money for the River Road Santa Clara Planning Initiative. There's money for the growth monitoring, which was an essential part of Envision Eugene. And there is money for a full-time planning director, which is, I think, a good thing. Not that the part-time one has done a poor job, but I think that there's enough work for somebody to do it full-time. In human services, there's the allocations that were put forward by the Budget Committee last May and June. There's money for rest stops, expanding the Lindholm hours, which is a great program, and also car camping. Other priorities, there's money for the climate and energy ordinance, and money for a full-time assistant city manager, which also I think the city is ready for. There is, this is an unprecedented supplemental budget in the amount and size of it. We're allocating almost $20 million because of a settlement with Comcast, and I don't think that that should be taken lightly. I think that there are some things in here that may need further discussion and the light of day shown on them. One of those is transferring $8.7 million to the City Hall capital projects. Now, I know that that's just a transfer of money from one fund to another, but it sends a message that this money is there and ready to be spent. And I think that that is something that if I were sitting on the Budget Committee, I would perhaps want to have some sort of say as to the prioritization of the city's needs, because I think that that's what the Budget Committee is for, is to give the citizens' view of the priorities of the budget of the city. So with that, I will say goodbye to you and this supplemental budget.
Finally, Josh Go, followed by Marty Wilde.
Third tries the charm.
Third tries the charm.
Thank you, John, for having me at your supplemental budget hearing. Josh Wascove, Ward 1, thank you as always, Council and Mayor, for your service, and hello to Aria and Jasmine watching at home. Good foreshadowing from John Borofsky. I'm here tonight as a member of the Budget Committee and on behalf of 12 current and former members of the Budget Committee, including myself and all other 7 current members, to ask you to reconsider this supplemental budget. The context for those not following the issue, the recent settlement of a legal dispute with Comcast resulted in a one-time payment of $18.75 million to the city's general fund. The result was a much larger than usual adjustment to our usual December supplemental budget. So our request, respectfully, we ask that Council allocate the vast majority of these funds to the reserve for the time being. And similarly, we ask that new expenditures in this supplemental budget be limited to an amount more in line with previous supplemental budgets. For scale, new line items here are in sum much greater than what we discussed in detail back in May. To be clear, we understand that supplemental budgets are necessary mid-course corrections during the fiscal year and are therefore inevitable and desirable. We're not criticizing the good causes to which the funds were allocated. Rather, this is about oversight, process, and prudence. 3 quick points. First, the state of the reserve. When we approved the fiscal year 2017 budget back in May, the projection in the city manager's budget statement showed the reserve dwindling to nothing within a few years, around fiscal year 2021 or so. If we must implement budget reforms in the next few years in order to address those rapidly approaching structural deficits, we will want the flexibility of a larger reserve. Second, recent tax assessment news. City budget staff recently updated the Budget Committee and Council with news that the general fund will receive roughly $1.5 million less in property taxes this coming fiscal year due to a smaller than expected increase in assessed value of property in the city. Presumably this could mean that much less every year for the foreseeable future. And third, as you've heard already, there has been considerable controversy around the City Hall project, and we believe that an allocation of nearly half of this one-time windfall without public process beyond this single hearing sends the wrong message to the community. On behalf of myself and the other signatories to this request, thank you to staff and the city manager for their hard work on the supplemental budget, and of course to council as well, and I'll follow this up with an email. Again, to be clear, I am speaking not just on my own behalf, but on behalf of all 8 current citizen members of the Budget Committee and 4 former ones as well. Thank you.
Marty Wilde's next, followed by Hillary Kittleson.
Hello, Marty Wilde, Betty Taylor's ward. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, Madam Mayor and esteemed city councilors. Like Mr. Scove, I hope that you will refer the supplemental to the Budget Committee. As you know, in the regular budget process, if you choose to change the recommended Budget Committee budget, you have to send it back by more than 10%. You have to send it back to the Budget Committee for additional hearing. While it doesn't appear that this same rule applies to supplementals, it should. Here you have a supplemental budget that exceeds 10% of the general fund budget. It deserves greater public attention. As to the argument that the supplemental simply applies earlier established priorities from the council to this midterm correction, I would point out that it does not fund other priorities that you've established. The Rest Stop program, funding each one in the additional 7 wards would cost an additional $420,000. If the supplemental goes back to the Budget Committee, you could also consider emergency funding for other services to help the homeless, including expanding the Family Center hours and expanding the Dusk to Dawn program. It's cold outside, and it's getting colder. Egan Warning Center is on activated or on warning for every night this week. Let's consider ways to find warm places for the least fortunate among us, and I think that starts with something supplemental to the Budget Committee for further consideration. Thank you.
Hillary Kittleson is the last one.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. I am Hillary Kittleson, and I live on LK Drive in the River Road area, and I'm in Council Surratt's ward. I'm annexed and in the city. And I'm also a member of the Santa Clara River Road Implementation Planning Team. And I'm here to testify in favor of the supplemental budget allocation for neighborhood planning in the River Road and Santa Clara neighborhood as called for in Vision Eugene. I also came to thank you and city staff for your excellent support of our efforts over the last few years. In addition to productive meetings we've had with you, staff has met with us regularly to listen to our concerns and to find ways to collaborate. The quality of that collaboration is symbolized for me by our recent success in getting the state to lower the speed limit on Lower River Road. The city has provided training on effective outreach and supported our efforts to prepare for initiation of a joint neighborhood plan. In addition to extensive outreach activities, those efforts have included careful review of relevant planning documents in order to identify issues that should be addressed in our plan. So we've met for a couple years looking at planning documents. We are excited and well prepared to hit the ground running. Your approval of this supplemental budget transaction is a necessary and much appreciated first step toward completion of a plan that reflects neighborhood priorities and the best principles of urban planning. Thank you very much.
Close the public hearing and ask if there are any questions from councilors, and I know Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say celebrate. The process works exactly like it's supposed to. When it comes to budgets, the manager proposes and the council is supposed to dispose. We do that in each of the annual processes by making sure that we have plenty of public input before we do that, and part of that, of course, is the Budget Committee. I think that John Borowski's 100% right when he says this is an extraordinary, unprecedented sort of budget, a supplemental budget with the large dollar amount, and I take the advice of Josh Scove and Marty as well, and agree. And I was speaking with Councilor Evans earlier today about this issue, and I tend to agree with him that I think we need a different process here. So my question is to the manager or to the city attorney, are we on a deadline? Do we need to approve something this evening, or can we just say we defer the process of approving a supplemental budget until it goes through a, say the Budget Committee process of some length?
I'll let either the city manager or Sue Cutsa-George answer your general question, but there's another option I just want to make sure you're aware of. If the primary concern is the money that was I think it was 8.7 million that was allocated for City Hall, you could adopt the resolution supplemental budget, but move that 8.7 million into the reserve. And then at a later time, that can come back to you as part of SB2, which would then allow you to have whatever process you want before it actually comes back to you. So if that's the only issue you have with the supplemental budget, then my suggestion to you is I just give you the exact language so that you would not be appropriating that money into or putting the money into the City Hall account. It would just all go into reserve, and then you could adopt the rest of the supplemental budget. As to your general question, Councillor Clark, about what happens if it's not adopted today, I'm going to either let the city manager or finance director answer that one.
Maybe I'll let Sue start, and then I'll fill in a couple things.
Okay.
Hello. There are a lot of items on the supplemental budget, and so all of those will be held up if we don't move forward with that today. So, you know, there's grant funds and a lot of other, all of the non-general funds have items in there too. So it just hold up all of the projects and spending that the staff had planned on being able to move forward with when the supplemental budget's passed.
And that's really the concern, is that if there are things that are in the queue that we would want to continue but we couldn't. Examples of that could be some of our downtown programs. As you know, we have done some things around park security. We've done some things around programming. So some of these dollars actually allow us to continue to do that into the new year. And so as we're, if we choose to postpone some of that means probably some of those things would get postponed. If grant awards, we couldn't move forward on those. There are some contracts that weren't completed last year, and so those dollars just need to get rolled over and reappropriated. And so if they're not reappropriated, we can't actually continue those contracts if there's no dollars that are appropriated. So that could postpone some of those kinds of work.
Hypothetically, what if it were to read something halfway in between? My concern is the new unanticipated revenue appropriations as opposed to the continuation of existing work. So what if there was a halfway medium that saw a motion like all those items for new spending from unanticipated revenue?
So essentially you're taking on page 179, all those one-time funding requests. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't have that in front of me in order to be able to see that appropriately. I'm sorry, but I would think the way you just described it, it sounds about right.
Okay, so I just want to make sure. So Sue, is that the list of things that presumably would be the new items?
Thank you very much.
So I look at the council agenda item, page 179.
Bingo.
One-time funding request. So that's the
Yes.
budget committee motions,
Yes.
transfer to reserve for revenue shortfall, all those items.
I'm going to let somebody else at the table make a motion on this who's wiser than I am on the best way forward, but I will say that my concern is beyond just I understand that the City Hall funds go from one savings account to another savings account, and either way, that's fine. I'm concerned with the look of that as well, and would want to have it go through a process. But if we're spending unanticipated revenues of a scale like this, I really think it needs to go through I want to say again, the manager did exactly what your job is, to propose how we spend it. But I think it needs a public process in order to review that more thoroughly than just in front of council tonight.
So and we can move in whatever direction you'd like to move. Just to put in a little bit of scale, so the one-time funding requests are approximately $19.5 million. Of those, a little bit over the $16 million of that is either for City Hall or goes into our savings account. And so if you take the remainder of that, which is plus or minus $3 million, that's probably within the realm of what we've generally had in beginning working capital, marginal beginning working capital most years.
So it is really the
it's those
City
two
Hall
items
stuff
that are really, I think, the big ticket items, half of which is going into our savings account. As Glenn mentioned, we could put the other portion of that in the saving account as well, and then eventually it comes back to the council to a supplemental process, to the budget process, to the City Hall process, and how you would choose to spend.
As near as I understand that, then that's kind of a motion to put 16.5 into the reserve for revenue shortfall. Do I have that right?
It would essentially be it would take that 8.7 from City Hall and actually put it.
As I mentioned, I'm sure there'll be another motion. I talked about this, so I won't make one, but I would support something like that, I suppose.
Alder Poling.
Yeah, Mr. City Manager, I do have a question on that 8.7 that was scheduled to be transferred to City Hall capital project. A couple of questions. I'll just get them all out at once. Is that money being earmarked for anything at this point, or is it going to be just kind of held there? Second question is, what was the process that you used? What information did you use to come up with that decision? Was it council direction? Was it based on what you see coming up on the City Hall project? Just kind of some background on it, please.
So you may have to fill in a couple of these gaps, and so I'll start off and she can correct me on some of these. As you might remember, what the City Council has approved budget for City Hall included some one-time dollars from any numbers of places. There was also some anticipated financing of those, so the future would say if we have to finance a portion of our costs, then we would not, and we talked about this a little bit earlier today in the work session, we would capture that payment of that financing through capital project funds rather than, for example, transferring $900,000 of that into general capital for facilities. We would take $500,000 of that and put it over into the City Hall budget. So part of the intent with some of these dollars that you see here is, as you know, I always like one-time money for one-time costs. And so this is trying to put one-time money for one-time costs as opposed to potentially having a larger financing element, whatever you choose for City Hall. And that's what the intent of this is.
And that decision was based on direction given to council during the process, discussions about the City Hall project?
Yeah, what the council has talked about is budgets for City Hall. And so all we're trying to do is provide dollars that you can choose to use if you want as one-time monies to take away the need for additional or some of the ongoing financing for that. So that's what that is. It could be put into the reserve and you can come back and do that again. So that timing isn't critical.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Councilor Evans?
Yeah, I would be more comfortable with us moving that $8.7 million into reserve for revenue shortfall. I think at this time, that we have a large enough chunk of cash that we, receive from Comcast that I think that there are a number of people out in the community and other people that are concerned about how deliberative we are in terms of programming that money. So I'm not saying that we don't program that money, but I say that we need to program that money in a way that is, more prudent, and that we have a broader discussion with the rest of the budget committee, and that, at that point we can come back and pull that money out of the savings account if we deem necessary to program that for City Hall or another amount that we deem is appropriate. So I'd like to make a motion to do that, just that, and to move the $8.7 million that is currently designated for transfer to City Hall, the City Hall capital project, into the deposit on reserve for revenue shortfall.
Second.
So
I think he's got.
I do have a motion.
You got the language, the right, correct language.
When you're ready to make the motion to adopt the resolution, there will be an amendment to that. And so
Okay.
if you're ready to do that now, I can give you the whole thing.
Okay, perfect.
So your motion would be move to adopt a resolution adopting a supplemental budget, making appropriations for the City of Eugene for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016 and ending June 30th, 2017, with the following change to exhibit can you guys keep having your conversation? Turns out there's 2 pages in this we need to change.
Okay.
But the motion will be, what you're asking for is we'll move the $8.7 million to the reserve for revenue
I'll come
shortfall.
back. I've got Councilor Pryor and Councilor Clark in the queue. Councilor Pryor.
Actually, first off, as a point of order, since there's already a motion on the table, are you asking them to rescind that motion and then make it later as an amendment?
No, what I'm really suggesting is that the motion, that the mayor declare the motion improper because there needs to be a resolution on the floor before you can move to amend the resolution.
So it's been declared improper, so we're reset and we'll do it. Okay, good. Yeah, I've been listening to the conversation and I absolutely understand the city manager's logic in wanting to put this here. I mean, we've said over and over again, we want to build a city hall. And we know that we don't have currently in the bank enough money to do it. So the logic of this seems perfectly clear to me. But the challenge is when you're dealing with this much money in this community, people want to talk about it. So I understand that if we're going to move $8.7 million, we got to do it with the appropriate level of conversation. So I'm okay with moving it into the reserve for revenue shortfall so that we can have that conversation. That's okay. I mean, we should just figure if the amount's big enough, everybody's going to want to talk about it. So I'm cool with that. So that's okay.
Okay, Councilor Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I would respectfully request that the language of that motion also include the idea of including the schedule of a budget committee meeting at some point in January or February in order to review.
Can I just make a suggestion? So part of that would be is if all that moves into the reserve for revenue shortfall, is your question before you move forward, for example, with a city hall project where some of this could be appropriated, that the budget
Before
committee...
any allocation of reserve for revenue shortfall, I suppose.
And that could be during that time. It could also be during the regular budget process, which may be also the timing when that comes back around. So your intent would be, I just want to make sure you get the intent. So your intent is that before any reserve for revenue shortfall would be come back to council for appropriation, it first has a chance for the budget committee to review that.
Yep.
Okay. If that's what you're...
My question about that is, that's not all of your revenue. He's talking about the portion of it that's
No, the 3's going to go through.
the Comcast. I just want to be sure we're not putting more into that.
Well, that's why I'm just trying to get clarification. So I guess so is your intent prior to us bringing any future expenditures for the council to consider that they go through budget committee?
Really want to do that?
Any?
Can I finish here on the, do I still have, was it my time, I think? Because what you mentioned is true, which is that it is not unprecedented for a supplemental budget to include several priorities already discussed or new items that are of a minor consequence. That's not unprecedented, but these large numbers are. So because we're putting that $16.5 million into reserve for revenue shortfall, that's the grand majority of it. I would be okay with personally, I would be okay with the other smaller expenditure items passing through because that is normal business. But I would say that larger reserve for revenue shortfall piece, the $16.5 million, not be allocated until it's gone through a normal budget committee process.
So one way to do that would be is that conversation occurs during the budget process.
That's what he's saying.
Right? So it wouldn't be necessarily a special meeting. It would just be as a normal part of the budget process is when the allocation or the appropriation of any of those monies would actually move forward.
It's the 16.5. It's focused on the money that specifically those dollars not be allocated until they've gone through a budget committee process. That's my intent with my comment, if you want to put that in the motion.
So that would actually need to be a separate motion because the motion that you would be acting on is the motion to adopt a resolution, and that motion is just of a different character. But it can certainly be made either before or after you adopt the resolution.
Let's try to adopt the resolution.
Yeah, let's do that first.
Okay. So the beginning is the same. Move to adopt a resolution adopting a supplemental budget, making appropriations for the City of Eugene for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2016 and ending June 30th, 2017 with the following changes. On Exhibit A, which is in your packet on page 214, the line under non-departmental that says interfund transfers would be reduced by $8.7 million to $1,050,000. The line that says reserves would be increased by $8.7 million to $14,735,115. And then on page 217 of your packet, in the middle of the page, General Capital Projects Fund, the balance available would be reduced. The balance available would be a negative $454,211, and the total general capital projects funds would be a negative $1,152,507.
Is your motion?
So moved.
And
Second.
Second. That's a non-issue.
Moved and seconded. Okay, so all those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Councilor Surratt?
I vote yes.
Okay, 8 in favor, none in opposition. It passes. Councilor Clark?
I'll move that none of the unanticipated revenues from Comcast be appropriated and, excuse me, I need to phrase that differently. Could you assist me with the phrasing, please?
And just to make sure I understand your intent, you want the council to say before the manager brings back any proposed expenditure of the Comcast dollars that it first go through a budget committee meeting.
I don't mind his proposal. I mean, before it goes to council for approval, which is our typical process. The manager can propose, but its first level of review is the budget committee and then council. What I'm saying is before we, the council, appropriate any of those dollars, that they go through the budget committee process first.
So your motion would be just what you said. I move that council agree that before any of the Comcast dollars are appropriated, that they first go to the budget committee for review and recommendation to council.
So moved.
Second?
Question on that. You mean for the Comcast dollars for the total of the supplemental budget, or do you really mean that for
The extra ones.
the
We
extra?
just moved over to the reserve for revenue
Right,
shortfall.
so then it's not, yeah, it's that chunk of money. It's not the Comcast money.
It's the deposit for reserve.
Yeah.
That's what I said in the first place, yeah.
So what you are doing, just to be clear here, is you are agreeing that it is the intent of the council to do what Councilor Clark had in his motion. This is an intent motion because the council tomorrow
can change
it.
Yeah.
So you're just agreeing that, yes, make sure you understand the intent of Councilor Clark because that's what you're really agreeing to do.
And Councilor Brown, did you have something?
Yeah, I had a question. I mean, what is anticipated when it goes to the Budget Committee? 1 meeting, 2 meetings? It's possible it would be 4. I mean, my concern is, we could come to some kind of resolution, maybe Wednesday, maybe not. More like January. So about City Hall, where we're going to land, which option are we going to pick? And we'll have a rough idea of what it's going to cost. And some of this money could come in handy for that because we don't know exactly what it's going to cost. We know how much we have, but we don't know what the final cost is or how much extra we're going to need. My concern is having appropriation to get enough to round it off sensibly. I have to go through this super long, and I think the Budget Committee should look at it. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying I guess we wouldn't know how many meetings would be sufficient. My guess is 1 or maybe 2. And it's possible that it could happen before the regular Budget Committee cycle. So maybe Councilor Clark can give me some idea what he has in mind.
I could tell you my intent, would be 1. This body right here is the only one that has the ability to appropriate money. So
that's true.
There's simply a recommendation, and I should think that 1 meeting would be sufficient.
Well, I would like to hear from the Budget Committee, so I think I'll go ahead and support this. Thank you.
You need a second.
Second.
Been seconded? Okay. All those in...
Can we be clear about what the motion?
He read it. You want to hear it again?
Can you restate the motion, City?
Because he said all the Comcast money, and that was not correct.
We're talking about the reserve for revenue.
Reserve for revenue.
Right.
Sure.
And so when I said all the Comcast money, what I meant was the Comcast money that you haven't already appropriated, which you did when you adopted the supplemental budget. So to be clearer, it would be before the council appropriates any of the remaining 16.5 million from the Comcast settlement, that the council will hold a meeting with the Budget Committee or a meeting of the Budget Committee to get its recommendation.
Okay. And everybody's clear on that? Okay, Betty?
I think I'm clear, but I don't think it's necessary. I think if council has decided that we need the money for something, and we knew we needed more money, and we were fortunate enough to get some unexpected money, and I think if we've already made decisions about how to spend it, that we don't have to have another meeting of the Budget Committee to do it. Thank you.
We'll now take a vote on Mike's motion. All those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3. In opposition? 1, 2, 3, 4. And Councilor Surratt?
I'll vote yes.
Hey, in your last meeting, you get a break a tie. Yes, it is.
So I think it's fine for it to go through the budget process. I'll vote in that direction. Okay, 5-4 in favor of Councilor Clark's motion. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the next item, which is a public hearing and possible action on ordinance allowing a licensed recreational marijuana retail facility. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. And this is a public hearing on an ordinance that would allow a terpene station to continue to operate after January 1st. When new recreational marijuana rules go into effect on November 21st, the council unanimously agreed to hold a public hearing tonight on this ordinance and to consider whether to adopt it.
Thank you, City Manager. We have one, I'm going to open the public hearing, and we have one person signed up to speak, and that's Marissa Rodriguez, and she has 3 minutes to speak.
Hi. My name is Marissa Rodriguez, and I am the compliance officer for Terpene Station. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about us and who we are now and who we've been. Terpene Station was licensed as an Oregon Health Authority dispensary in 2014. And at that time, the Looking Glass on River Road was not reporting or considered a school. And so since then, the Looking Glass has begun reporting as a school, and Terpene Station has been relicensed as an OHA dispensary as a result of a grandfathering clause. But our future tonight is contingent on OLCC recreational rules that don't have that grandfathering option for us, but does allow for local governments to do what is proposed, and we're hoping that you will do tonight. In addition to that, I would like to share some notable details about Terpene Station. We expect our total sales for 2016 to be just over $1 million. And by the end of the year, we will have paid $236,000 in Oregon state sales tax. We project to grow our business by another 50% in 2017. And that could likely add up to probably at least $40,000 here in the Eugene community as sales tax. Continuing or being able to get an OLCC license will allow us to continue to employ 12 beloved employees and probably grow that in 2017. And from all of us, a few of us here tonight, we appreciate so much the swift and thoughtful action of the Eugene City Council and the mayor and the city attorney in giving us a chance tonight. Thank you so much.
I'm going to close the public hearing and see if there's any questions or comments from council. Councilor Linka.
Yeah, I understand that the Terpene Station is 960 feet from the school front door instead of 1,000. So they're 40. If they were 40 feet over, this wouldn't have been an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
Mayor, can I speak?
Good
Yes,
for
you can.
Thanks. I also want to thank the city attorney and city manager for acting on my request that we bring this forward. I think it's really important that we support this burgeoning industry, and I'm shocked and pleased to hear what their revenues are and what their tax might be contributing to our city in the future. Thank you.
So does any councilor object to taking action tonight? Seeing none, Council President.
I move to adopt Council Bill 5161, an ordinance related to a licensed recreational marijuana facility.
Second.
Moved and seconded. No hands up. All those in favor, please indicate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Councilor Surratt?
Yes.
8 in favor, none in opposition. It passes. Last item up is an ordinance concerning erosion prevention. City Manager?
An erosion and sediment control program is a requirement of the city's federal and state stormwater permits. The ordinance has not been updated since its original adoption in 1996. The city is currently on the 4th iteration of federal and state stormwater permits, and the industry practice has evolved since the original ordinance was adopted. Proposed changes to the ordinance are intended to address current stormwater permit requirements, problematic unregulated construction sites, and reflect current industry practice.
President?
I move to adopt Council Bill 5160, an ordinance concerning erosion prevention.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Hand up. Okay, all those in favor, please indicate. 7. Councilor Surratt?
I vote yes.
8 in favor and none in opposition. It passes. And before I close out my last city council meeting, I just want to say, I've said I have a work session, but this is the last one.
Okay.
This is really the last full city council meeting for me. So I said thank you to you guys because it's been wonderful serving with each of you, and I've said thank you to the audience, but I haven't said thank you to staff, and I want to do that in this format because I think you do so much hard work for us, and I just want to express my genuine appreciation for 12 years of working together. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
George, do you have anything you want to say?
What she said.
Okay, done. All right. So thank you all.